Welcome to Coach SG and Friends, where we discuss topics that help you have a better relationship with yourself and others. I am Coach SG, otherwise known as your joyful friend. I'm a relationship coach and life mentor, an entrepreneur and speaker. I'm based out of Los Angeles, but originally from Brooklyn, New York. I love great music, deep conversations, and inspiring people to live their best emotional lives and create their most amazing love story. Let me introduce you to my two friends, Janessa Rose and Lisa Miranda. Janessa is the CEO of Motivational Monsters, a nonprofit that helps people activate mental health and emotional well-being through creative arts. She is the author of How to Stop Being an Effing Bum. BUM stands for Broken Urban Mentality. She's been dubbed the Tony Robbins / Cardi B of motivational speakers, and she calls herself the Galactic Goddess. Lisa Miranda is an actor and creative director. She's also dabbling in producing. She is based in Miami, New York, and Paris. She is a world traveler who speaks several languages, who loves life, good people, and good conversation. So we want to welcome you to our podcast. Let's get started. All right, ladies, welcome back. So we are going to be talking today about how to access your magic. How to access your Black girl magic, your galactic goddess, your inner light, your inner queendom, whatever it is. How do you access it?
So yesterday, on our other episode, we discussed a lot about self-love. And I think we were discussing how affirmations are magical and how they change and shift things. And I had expressed to you girls that I wanted to share with the audience why affirmations are so magical, right? Because there's a science to it. There's reasons why. For those of you who don't think you're magical, because we all really are. That's our birthright, is that we're creators and that our word is our wand. Okay, that's the key. So we're talking magic.
I love that. Can you say that again? Our word is our wand.
It's our wand. And I got that from, just for you that are, Florence Scovel Shinn was
I know who that is.
Blew
I
my
remember her book. I read her book.
So her first book was The Game of Life and How to Play It. I don't know if it was the first, but that was the first one I found of her. And affirmations are powerful and magical because when we speak, there's a power in our word. That is the whole thing. Your brain is now hearing what you're saying. It's creating it too, but it's hearing it as well. As same as it's creating the thought, it's hearing it. After a while, your brain picks up pattern. It picks up pattern. So if you're repeating this to yourself consecutively, what you start to do is you create a new pattern for your nodes in your brain. Your actual, like the firing nodes are actually creating a new passage to create this belief. I am beautiful. I am powerful. I am capable. I am lovable. I am worthy. Whatever it is that your I ams are, your affirmations, right? I am financially stable, whatever. And what happens is your brain starts to pick it up. And then now it becomes a habit because we're very habitual. This is what happens. So your affirmations are powering this new pattern. It's also known as neuroplasticity. You can do this in anything that you do consecutively. So affirmations are creating this magical passage to us being habitually believing what we're saying to ourselves, which is why self-talk, positive self-talk, encouragement and empowerment self-talk is so magical for us.
I love it because I think, if we don't know how our brain works, we're not able to change anything. And the funny part is what you're talking about, how we kind of record new messages, is that those messages that we're telling ourselves every day, we are already giving ourselves messages that every day, all day long. But now we want to do it in an intentional way. And I think that's what affirmations are about. But before we get to that, I forgot to mention, if you're looking at us on YouTube, we all have these hats on. So your joyful friend always wears hats. So I remember when I decided I was going to be a coach, I was like, you know what? This is how I dress, like every day. And so when I first started doing my videos, I was like, I have to be like business savvy. but this is me every time. So I was just like, fuck it. If they don't like it, I'm just gonna wear a hat every day. And I see that you guys are now inspired. I love it. I love it.
It was only a matter of time.
Yes. Janessa's got the little balls on the top of her.
Today.
At least got her fashion layout going on.
I'm gonna grab the bull by its horns.
Right. And I'm bringing you the urban flair. So I love that. So how are you accessing your magic, Lisa?
Okay, so I think for me, this is a very trying moment in my life right now. And I think I'm very grateful that I started to build a routine before things got crazy, because now I have something to fall back on. And I know if I don't feel good, I know I have a checklist of things. Well, did you meditate today? Did you journal? Did you go outside? Did you move your body? So there's things for me to think about and things for me to listen to, and some in my own voice. And that has been so powerful because it reminds me that there's so many things for me to be, happy about, and so many things for me that I'm creating and doing. And it just reminds me to just, you know what I'm saying? To just take a moment to appreciate myself. So there was this one thing that Sherelle had taught me, and I was working on. It was like a life work thing that was very powerful. And I was just dying to talk about it on our last podcast. But the assignment was to just kind of write about the magic, right? About my individual magic. And at first I was just like, okay, whatever. But the first sentence had to be, I am magical. And I'm just like, all right, I'm magical. And at first I'm like, something along the lines of, there's no one quite like me, I suppose, and it was just like, because it's just not what we do, like we go to school, we're not taught to really, to really shine. I mean, that's the only way to put it. You're not taught to really embrace who you are, except when it's in competition with somebody else, when it's just, you're great, you're worthy, you're special, you're beautiful, you're enough. We don't hear it enough outside of, you did better than this person, or you exceeded this goal, or you met this expectation. But I think it's so powerful to just put that aside and just be like, who am I? When you put the accolades to the sides, when you put all the aspirations of the life experiences, who am I? And is that enough? And the answer has to be yes. So in writing this, at first they were kind of like weak sentences, right? Kind of weak. By the time I was done, I was like, am I Maya Angelou?
What?
My Maya Angelou.
I was just like, this is really good. I was like, do I need to publish this? I was just like, I was even thinking, I was just like, am I sharing this on the podcast? And I was just like, sit down, Lisa. This is your little thing. You're still making yourself listen to it every day, trying not to forget. Relax, you'll get there. But it's just, and and there's some moments, some days when I'm listening to this, and it really hits like, I said that. Yeah, I'm holding myself to that level of love, self-love. So I think looking at yourself and forcing yourself to take all the little words and all the little ideas, take out everything little, and really stand in your fullness and your bigness and your ability and power and purpose. Wow. But you don't remember it unless you do activities and you surround yourself with people and places that make you feel like that. So it's just, I don't know any other way to put it, but just like spare no expense to feel good. And then it keeps growing. And then when you're having a bad day, you have all these other resources to fall back on and to help you get back to feeling great.
Ooh, I love it. I love it.
I'd like to answer that really quickly. Yesterday, I did a group session with a bunch of grandmothers, right? And I was talking to them about a focus wheel, and I was teaching them about focusing on themselves, because they've already, did their children, raised their children, then they're into, sometimes you forget about self. And it's funny because I was telling them the same thing. I was like, it's really important to focus. And while you're in your focus of what you want to become ideally, you're going to be writing as if it already is this. So all your, you get to stay in that space of, I'm already this. This is my focus. This is what I want. But then these are the things that I feel while I'm already received that, right? And the main thing that I had to warn them of is the little voice that's going to be like, yeah, but you can't travel the world with your grandson. You can't afford that. Or yeah, you can't do this, because it's those thoughts. And I wanted to interject, because this is what it is. We're so conditioned. Remember, I talked to you guys about the pattern. We're so conditioned and fantasizing and emotionally attaching ourselves to the negative. It's very easy for that. We do that intent, not even unintentionally, but we do that constant. It's so much, let me prepare for the worst prior to experiencing that, rather than us being comfortable in the, this is received, I'm for sure that this is what it is. And it's really just as likely, equally, it's just as likely it won't happen as it's just as likely as it can happen. But it's what we are patterned to doing. It's the neuroplasticity of this pattern being stronger, these nodes being stronger with one another and connecting to the negative rather than the positive. So
Can I ask a question? I've heard a lot about focus wheels, but I've never done one, and I don't know how to do it, and I don't really know what it is.
okay, I can show you.
Before we get to that, I want to make sure that we even define what it is magic is, because I think we went right, because we're in the advanced class. And we've got to remember that we're talking to people that maybe not in the advanced class yet. So we got to kind of start with the basics. So when we talk about accessing your magic, what exactly is your magic? Can you guys explain? Because for me, I feel like that, that's the part of you that's unlike anybody else. It's also your creativity, right? It's that unique expression of yourself that no one else has. But sometimes we don't tap into it. Just like what Lisa was saying, when we go to school, it's about behaving, it's about conforming, it's about doing what everybody else is doing. It's not about really defining what makes you different than other people. So can we define first what even is magic?
Mastering the self. It's understanding where and how we exist, and it's knowing the higher faculties. When you know your intuition, you tap into your imagination, and you're standing in, like Lisa said, your fullness, then you're able to tap into your magic. For me, magic is also, like a lot what Sherelle said, it's our uniqueness, but we all have it. It's a birthright. It's something that we all have. No one does not have it. They just have the intention not to tap into it. Magic is also intentional to me. And it works even when it's unintentional, which is why mastery is important, because it'll work in your favor if you're intentional. So yeah, that's what it is to me. It's way bigger, and it's not optional. It's already occurring. So
love it. No, I was going to say that, I think magic, sometimes people think it's some kind of action, and it's not necessarily an action. It's an expression of who you are. And if you're not used to expressing yourself, and you're not used to saying how you feel, and you're not used to looking at your creativity, and I think as children, we are naturally creative. We just explore, we're curious, we want to learn more. And as we get more information, we get these beliefs that stop us from being creative. And I think, our magic is about our creativity, it's about our love, and it's about what makes us different than another person. Like, you can have two people doing the same exact thing. They're both just as talented, but one is magical and the other one isn't, because one has tapped into their expression of themselves, right? So I just think that we just have to teach people, or I do it with the young lady that I mentor, is about really just focusing on herself. I mean, right now we're looking at colleges and where she wants to go. And it's so funny, when I first started to mentor her, she wanted to be a veterinarian. And after I allowed her to interview all the great people that I know, and I know you, Janessa and Lisa, were two of many that I had to interview her. Now she knows that the world is her oyster, and she can do a multitude of things. There's not like one job she had to have. So now, she brought herself a skateboard. She's going skateboard to school, and there's just a different she's accessing a different part of her instead of trying to fit in this box, in this role of, I have to be a veterinarian. I'm like, no, you could be a writer, you could be an actor, you could be a, you can be a celebrity stylist, you can be a coach, you could be whatever, you could be a makeup artist, you can be whatever. But I think she's not used to that. She's used to, here's the job and here's the path to this one job. So I think accessing your magic is about finding your uniqueness. So
I think in addition to that, it's about, I guess, standing in your validity, despite anything that happens or has happened or will happen. Something that really comes, something that's on a spiritual level, like Janessa was saying, but that really grants you freedom and openness once you connect with yourself. So your magic is something that that, it's something special about you and for you, that's always there. And when you just, and when you're touching it, when you're accessing it, when you're close to it, because everything lights up. And your magic can be completely different than everyone else that's around you, and that's okay, and it's so powerful when you stand in that, as opposed to trying to do or be what other people what other people's gifts are. So and I think when you start connecting, like when you need to find it, when you start looking at what makes you excited, it gives you a big clue into what your magic is, like what, and and I think sometimes people think what excites you is tied to what you can make money from easily, like when Sherelle was just saying about being a veterinarian. Well, I can deal with animals. Maybe that's a good job for me. Maybe that's my magic. Your magic is not just what you can plug into society and they can say, okay, you're worthy. It's outside of money. It's outside of social values about, where you stand on the social ladder or whatever. It's really, who are you? And when you're connected to you, what does that empower you to do or be?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that. That kind of right there, what you just said, Lisa, is exactly, I think, what is driving my program in my nonprofit. Because I believe, and I was just writing that this morning, that creating, and being able to create goes hand in hand with wellness. It really does. When you see yourself being able to create, and you go into this space and you're like, wow, like, look, I need this, like, you know what I mean? And I feel great while doing it. Like, everything went away, pain, hurt, memories, whatever, even just for a block of time. And the excitement in that, people are transformed in that moment. In that moment, they're immediately transformed, and it changes them. And I believe it is because what it does is it's the image of God. That's creation. Like, we're made in its image. So for me, I believe that's what, that magic is. That's the creator. Like, oh, look at what you can do. He can make around the world, right? But, well, because this is how I see it. Like, this is what I tell myself. This is how God talks to me, But around the world, we live in such a world. Every single thing is it's a creation. It's a thought. It was an idea. It was somebody saying, yo, it would be better if we had this, that, and the third. And you look around, we now exist in this world, like creating it taps us into a whole other plane. It really does. And it's definitely a huge, if not the biggest energy in magic, I think, is the creating.
You ladies have spoken the word beautifully. I love the way Lisa expressed just that journey of self-reflection and self-expression. And Janessa, you have I think what the great part is that you have that information that backs this up. It's not just like thoughts that we have in our heads, but there's science behind what we're talking about. And, I agree. I never knew before that creativity was where my magic was. Creativity and freedom and love. That, I feel like that mixture of those three is where my magic lies. And that's what brings me so much joy. And I think, if you're not used to tapping into that, that's where we become like 30, 40, 50 going, what's my purpose? And feeling like you have to find it. And like Lisa was saying, we think it's something that has to be we have to make money from it. It has to be a career, and it doesn't have to be a career. What it has to be is we should be creating all the time, every day, just, in whatever we touch, whether it's in our relationships, it's in our conversations, it's in, what we're bringing forth to the world. I think we should be creating all the time. And like I was saying with kids, they're used to creating all the time, and that's why they're so joyful, and they're not looking at time and trying to be overwhelming themselves. Playtime is all the time. So once I learned that in order for me to express my magic, I have to be in freedom, I have to be in joy, and I have to be creating all the time. I just felt like it just opened this passage for me, and now I feel connected to my creator, whatever we want to call them, or it's, or the universe. So I love that. You had mentioned turning thoughts into things, and I think, I just believe that, our magic can, because we're creators, we can create whatever we want. And the funny part is, a lot of the work is already done. People have created stuff, but all they do is they take what's already created and they put it together in a different way and create something new. Even the
Remix.
stuff that I talked about. Remix, right. Even the stuff that I talk about, I didn't bring, these ideas are not my ideas. I read books, I did some research, and I aligned myself with beliefs that I felt like, yeah, this is a different way that I want to do my life. So, but we bring our creativity into it, our authenticity to it as well. So how do you express your magic?
For me, I'm a creator. I've always created. I use my magic in, whether it's a ritual, it could be a meal, it can be a vibe in my house, it can be the way I speak life into my either my guests, my clients, my friends, my family, my loved ones. I express my magic through that for others, and to others, to share that with them, so that way, because I also believe the energy, right?
Right.
So let me back it up. Energy is how I'm expressing. And so one of the things that I learned when I was doing music, when I used to rap, is the energy that I was feeling during the recording was being trapped into this work of art, this body of work. And when I shared it with other people, they will either become emotional, responsive. It was an emotional response, like, oh, yeah, I've been there. I know what that means. Whether it was like a heartbreaking type of rap or a violent one, whatever it was, they would be like emotionally responsive. And I started to realize it's because they're picking up the energy that was trapped in this body of work. And it's the same for art. It's the same for anything. So I always created bodies of work, whether people, resonated or not, and I shared it. That was it. But then when it comes down to myself, when I wanted to share the magic with self, I would create rituals for myself. I'd set up the whole house. I got a whole sacred space. This is my production room, but then right next here is a little sacred room where I meditate, where I bring part of all the elements into my, my little space, and I sit with them, and I create something that I use them as tools to remind my subconscious that this is important. This is, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if this is making any sense. I don't want, for me, I go into ritual, ceremony, and I hold space for myself. And I get vulnerable. I get real naked. And I say out loud the things that I fear. I say out loud the things that I desire. I speak to a higher power. I ask them to intervene. I ask them to lead me and guide me if I'm confused or misled. I really embrace the possibilities. And then the last but not least, and very important step for me, is saying this one affirmation: I am limitless and magical, and anything that I say will become. And in that sense, I kind of also counteract, remind myself, like, don't say nothing stupid.
Do you, Lisa, do you have any rituals that you do to access your magic?
I do a lot of rituals for like, and like acting workshops and stuff. And that's the reason I say that is because or like for my work, you have to free your instrument in order to be able to access these different emotions and to play freely, to really to be a free actor. So that's important. And I think I've been really lucky where my work has forced me to have to find ways to heal and find ways to be more myself in order to work. But we were talking about the magic, and I think something I noticed about me, and I used to think was something bad, but it's something kind of good. Like if I'm in a bad mood, sometimes helping somebody else, putting my energy towards solving something or assisting in something, that's really helps me remind myself, like, oh, look at you. You have so much to offer. Look at these gifts that you have. Look how you've overcome these kind of problems. You know, if I'm like not in the best mood, and I turn my attention to people that I love or care about or can support at that time, it feels really rewarding. Not to be confused with having an empty cup and then just having these responsibilities. Not like that. So I feel like it's like a nice way to remind myself of my magic, when I can be of service to other people and I can watch them flourish or grow, or then I'm like, yes. And then I'm like, sometimes I'm like, all right, let me go back to sad now. but you can't, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're in a bad mood, you help somebody out, you can't really go back to the same sad or whatever you were feeling. You're elevated, even if it's a little bit. So I find a lot of purpose and joy in service. And I think for me, you know, that takes me out of my head more than anything else, and reminds me that I'm special and divine.
I you know, like Janessa was saying, you know, I get up and I meditate. So before I go about my day, before I engage with other people, you know, I'm not 100% perfect, but I'm about 99.9% perfect, where you know, I sit with myself and I connect with a higher source so that I can access my magic. You know, I feel like it's kind of like how we plug our phones in, you know, in order to get our batteries going, to get my energy right, to set my intention for the day. And then, you know, I ask God to allow my creativity to flow. So before, I was just doing my work, and now I just want to create whatever that looks like. So whether it's like I want to start skating tomorrow, or I want to you know, paint something, I want to write. Right now I just want to write every day. So that's kind of where my joy is right now. But you know, I just think we should be practicing our creativity, and it's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful when you're, you know, what you feel most creative in, you're doing that as a job. Not everybody has access to that. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, I guess that I do those morning things that you were talking about. When you said ritual, right after Janessa talked about this whole extravagant, beautiful thing, I was like, yeah, I don't do that. I've done that on stage, but I've never done that. And then you talk about ritual being, I said, yeah. So when Janessa's talking about this amazing spiritual thing she does, I'm like, yeah, I don't have a ritual. And then as soon as Sherelle says, yeah, I meditate, and I'm like, I do that. I have a ritual.
Lise, it's just something you do every day. Your ritual, us brushing our teeth, our hair, our baths, ritual. Yeah, us putting on clothes before we step outside, ritual. That's really what that is. And we got to start understanding that in our magic too, like in our self-powering, our empowering. I deserve this. And if you want to make it, you know, great and extravagant, cool. You know, I'm just that type of person. I'm a Leo. Yeah, I mean,
but I think a lot that word ritual really frightens people because they think, what does that mean? Is that something for or against my religion? What does that mean if I'm not spiritual? Well, how can I connect with myself? You know what I'm saying? Because yes, what you just said, Janessa, we do it, but sometimes unintentionally and are not aware of what we're doing. And so much more powerful when we do know that, this is my ritual.
Right.
You know?
This is the thing, right? I'm glad you said that. All right, I gotta go in real quick, y'all. Let me just do this.
Okay. Sit back and get ready.
Wait. She got the hat ready.
Yeah.
Hats on TV. Okay, we get great. If you listening, go get a hat and come back.
That's right. Well, wait.
Got a hat. Now let me.
That's the end of part 1. We'll see you for part 2 next week. My joyful friends, that's our show. Thank you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe and leave a review. Share this episode with someone you think would get some value out of it. We look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Bye-bye now.